This is an adaptation of a John Cheever short story. How did that story come to you, and what kind of drew you to it?
I think I literally just was reading short stories and came across a John Cheever short story, the Scarlet Removal Van, I think it's actually called. And there was something about it which I really liked and which clicked with me. And the events in the story are very similar to the film, apart from the end. It's got less of an ending. But apart from that, it's all pretty much like the story, although it's set in 1950s in a kind of commuter belt. It's sort of like Mad Men kind of setting, you know, it's that sort of community. So there was the question of would it work if we, you know, set it in an English community and made it contemporary. But apart from that, we kept it pretty much the same, really.
To take a few steps back in terms of your relationship with Bonafide, how did that kind of come about, and at what stage did this short film kind of enter into it? Is this your first collaboration?
We met at Live Theatre, because I did some work for them as well, and there were some shorts there that we worked on together. Sort of, there was a series of shorts, and I think you did one there, which we had to do in a week, so it was kind of a really small project, but it was good fun.
If there are kind of producers in the audience who are making films, what is the best way for them to try and come to your attention? Is it to focus on festivals, or...?
Festivals are a part of it, definitely, but actually it's really just about starting the conversation and building a relationship up with any one of us in the team, sort of thing. And I know that sort of seems easy to say, just send an email and have a conversation, and you know, that it's almost like, is it really that easy kind of thing? But it sort of is, and it just relies on us being very, very good and very, very diligent at getting back to people and having those meetings and just having those conversations sort of constantly and keeping in touch with people. You know, just constant follow-up in terms of what people are doing. You know, maybe they're not right now, they're not sort of ready to do something with us, but we think they're an interesting voice, and so we're just like, tell us that, you know, what you're doing, and let us know if you've done something new, and we'll try, if it's a play, then we'll try and go and see it. Or, you know, it really is just like trying to keep a constant sort of flow of information and just build a relationship, basically.
I think to add to that, you know, exactly what Joe was saying, our side is, you know, as a producer, is to find that talent. So I think that as long as you be fairly persistent, someone like Joe will eventually answer an email, just because you've got a lot on. You know, people will answer an email, but you've obviously got to have something to offer, so that you've really kind of got an interesting talent, that you've spent that time with that talent, that you've got a relationship with it and with that person, and that you know what you want to do with it, or you've got some something to offer, essentially. So I think that's also our side. You know, when you are going to make that introduction, that you've really thought about how you're going to, what you're offering.
How does it work in terms of like co-productions and getting kind of the finance in to create
huge.
it all?
Well, basically, I mean, everything that we do is a co-production, so it's we've always got a number of partners, and really it's a combination. I mean, these guys, Marjorie's really experienced, so it's brilliant for us because she will know a lot of that, and you'll be out there doing that sort of already. But we, you know, obviously we work with sort of less experienced producers, and we help put finance together. So we help sort of take a project out and find that financing as well. And then sometimes people come and they know exactly where they want to go for the money. You know, often, unless it's a very small, on the sort of smaller budget end of things, we're not often. We can be a majority financier, but on the bigger stuff, obviously, we tend to not be a majority financier. We've got 15 million a year to make about 10 to 12 features, so it's not a lot of money. I guess our thing always is that we try and take as big a slice of the pie as we can to sort of have the voice and to sort of have, you know, start relationships, you know, quite at the beginning if possible, and be as involved as possible all along the way, because we don't have tons of money to offer, but we do have sort of a relationship and the support network, and you know, that's what we can offer.
What were the biggest challenges of directing?
It was all hard, you know. I realised I didn't really know how to do any of it. So it was all tricky. I think the bit that felt most alien to me as a writer was working with actors. That was the because a lot of the other stuff is to do with story one way or the other. you know, what to do with structure or whatever, you know, the sort of more technical aspects of it and editing and stuff are sort of related to writing, but working with actors isn't, so that was probably the hardest bit.
As a writer, did directors butcher your work? And as a director, have you butchered your own writing work?
Yes. Yes and yes, I think.
Sorry, I asked a closed question.
No, that's okay. Yes, I have, you know, obviously I have, I think probably all writers do sometimes feel frustrated that a scene is being directed in a way that they hadn't intended it to be, or that moments have been missed or whatever. But the reverse is also true. Sometimes you see a director do something that you hadn't intended that, you know, is much, much better than what you had in mind. And did I sort of let myself down? Yes. There are lots of things that I look at, you know, I see more things wrong with it than that I like about it, but I think that's probably always the way.
Peter, now that you've worked as a director and you've seen a film from that perspective, do you think that will affect how you write in the future?
It's a really good question. I think it does affect how you write. I haven't exactly worked my way through all the ways I think it does affect you, but it does. I mean, I think one of them, I don't quite know how to say it. I think I used to try and, as writing the script, used to try and fill in all the dots, as it were, as if you were looking at the finished film on the page. And I'm sort of less inclined to do that now, because it's sort of pointless. Because I think a director will always start to fill in those dots themselves. Like I used to put music in, you know, for scenes and things, just to try and, as if I was sort of running the film in my head, and increasingly I kind of find that stuff pointless, because, you know, no director worth their salt will take any notice of that, because they're going to build that world up themselves. So I think I'll probably end up writing sparer sort of scripts than I used to, you know.
Thank you.
And Peter, having had several kind of feature films made of your scripts, I wonder if there was a kind of shift in how your brain works when you're dealing with a short, or if it was just the same process as before.
It's a good question. They were a lot harder. They were a lot harder to do. I think one of the reasons why, you know, we were talking about the fact that it's got voiceover, and one of the reasons why this got voiceover, I think, is that if you want to tell quite a big story in a short film, you know, a story that's got a lot of beats to it, it's very hard to do that without voiceover in a way. It's much easier to kind of narrate it. So they tend to either be, you know, the story of a moment in someone's life, you know, often like a child's sort of defining moment or something like that. Or they tend to be films with stings in the tail, neither of which I really wanted to do. So, yeah, it's kind of like a short story. Short stories are harder to write in some ways than novels. You know, it's got the same. It's a much more disciplined kind of art form in lots of ways, I think.
What's the plan for Gigi? How's that going
to? I mean, festivals. We've sort of started putting it into festivals and just see if we get accepted into a couple, and I think that, and then presumably it goes on to Channel 4 at some point, or Film 4.
It screens on Channel. And we put it on our website as well. And we are discussing whether to actually package up some of the films and maybe do something a little bit more with them, because it's such a strong year. They're really fantastic films, and so we might try and sort of bring them out across the country and do little screenings like this and that sort of thing. So we're talking about all that, just so you know.
Please join me in thanking Jo, Marjorie and Peter.